Welcome everyone. It has been quite a while since we've done our last talk, and I went through first period of illness that I can remember since I was about 10 or 12 years old, and it was quite an experience. I think I had strep throat, and wow. It's so interesting not being able to swallow your own saliva or eat anything, and just watch how the body clears things out, moves things through. And the interesting thing is I feel stronger and healthier now than I did before. Sometimes I think our body knows when it needs to release things and be a little bit more dramatic about it than normal, and move through a lot that it wouldn't have necessarily done in our regular daily activities of whatever we're doing that we think may be great for ourselves. So it was quite an experience for me, and I'm here and so happy to be back with more energy, vitality, and all that good stuff in my 70s. So welcome back. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the things that I've considered to be among the most important for people to understand, to learn about, to consider. And that has to do with what can we do? How can we have healthy babies when we're living in such a toxic world? And we're finding that more and more women are having fertility problems. Not just women, but men as well. We're finding that people are resorting to all kinds of medical types of interventions in order to give birth these days, and having more and more challenging births. And there's so much regarding this that we could talk about. In fact, we could probably do 20 sessions on different aspects of this area, which we're not going to do. I'm going to give you a basic area to consider, and then if you have more interest, please get in touch with me, and we'll do special programs about your particular interests. I want to also open this area up a little bit, because as I was considering this morning, I really believe that it's not just the issue of what do we need to do to have a healthy baby, but what do we need to do to be healthy ourselves when we're living in such a toxic world, where it's literally challenging to find food that's not been in some way horrendously polluted. And even now, from the air and from the water that falls from the sky, because of the tremendous amount of pesticides and things that we've been using, and how they are in our sky, in our air, and end up even in the top of glaciers. Beautiful, pristine places are no longer beautiful and pristine. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here when I talk to you about these things, but we do need to consider what we can do to support ourselves, to be strong and healthy. And it's actually something that we need to do whether we're sick or whether we're strong and healthy already, to maintain that space. So the first thing that we might want to all consider when we're looking about it from the point of view of someone who's having difficulty getting pregnant, or somebody who just wants to have the healthiest baby they can and they haven't tried yet, is that we want our organs in our body to be working well. In particular, we want our organs of detoxification to be working well, so that our body can deal with the environment that we live in. Even our homes are incredibly toxic. They're made with things that have formaldehyde. It's almost impossible to find furniture that doesn't have fire retardants. All these kinds of toxins, if you were to look into the Environmental Working Group, who does enormous amounts of research about all this sort of stuff for us, will tell you that these things are carcinogens, that they're harmful to us, that they mess with our endocrine system. And when we do anything that messes with our endocrine system, we're doing things that are harmful to our ability to have healthy hormones and therefore to have the ability to give birth in a healthy way. And we're finding more and more babies and more young children are having serious problems like autism, even when they haven't had a vaccine yet, because the parents have had vaccines, because the parents have been eating toxic foods, drinking sodas, eating food that has been grown in large manufacturing kinds of ways rather than considering the health of the animal itself, rather than letting the animal have a healthy lifestyle. If the animal doesn't have a healthy lifestyle, if you and me, if we don't have healthy lifestyles, then all of these things can affect our possibility of creating a healthy new baby. And that's what we want to do. Some of us aren't going to be having babies in the form of little humans. Some of us are creating our babies in the forms of new businesses, new ventures that we're into. And those ventures won't have the fullness of our capacities to make them the best that they can be if we aren't strong and healthy, if we aren't the best that we can be. So there's a couple of things that have been understood for a really long time. The first is that we need to do things that are not endocrine disruptors. And any pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, poisonous chemicals that we use to prolong the life of things, the fire retardants, the Teflons, all of these sorts of things are loaded with chemicals that are endocrine disruptors. And that means that they're getting in the way of the normal functioning of our endocrine system, which is our system that produces our hormones. So we want to be aware of that, and we want to do our best to avoid those things. How do we avoid them? Well, for starters, we have to be smart about what we choose to put in our bodies, and on our bodies, and in our air. People use, different types of perfume things to make their houses smell better, but if you take a look, again, through the Environmental Working Group, you can find out just what's in these products that you might be plugging into your walls that are loaded with horrible carcinogens and really toxic to us. And that's true of what we're doing to prolong the shelf life of so much of the food that we're eating. Two of the biggest things are these endocrine disruptors, but also things that cause insulin resistance. And we're going to find that in foods that have been man-made rather than life-made, rather than God-made, rather than coming naturally from the earth and from the soil and from the efforts of farmers who are they're feeding and nurturing their soil and understanding about cover crops and the ways to garden and to grow things in a way that supports life and supports healthy soil and supports real food with real nutrients for us, instead of food that has been grown in these huge, gigantic businesses where the purpose is to get as many rotations as you can and to keep putting more and more chemicals on the soil and removing all that is life-giving to the soil. So it's really important, and I know you're going to see this in some of my other YouTubes, to be choosing foods that are real. And ideally, if you're able, to be able to choose foods that are grown relatively close to where you live, if not in your own garden, which would be ideal, but relatively close to where you live, Perhaps start frequenting your farmers markets and getting to know your farmers and the people who are doing their very best to support you in having real and healthy, wonderful food. The other thing that's really important is that we start realizing and giving value to and providing the time to cook our own foods, or to have people that we know and trust cook foods for us. And again, the farmers markets can be fabulous for this, but to learn how to prepare simple, healthy foods at home can make a huge difference. We've talked about many diets in the past, and when we're concerned about endocrine disruptors, and when we're concerned about our ability to conceive and our fertility, one of the major issues that can create challenges for both men and women is the insulin resistance and high blood sugar. And we find that in this country we are crazily addicted to sugars and to fast food. And it comes in all different forms now. I mean, keto fast foods and things that we, in the health food stores, all kinds of bars and pre-prepared thises and that's. And if you look at the ingredient list, you might be quite shocked to see the maltodextrins and the sugars and just all of these different things. It might say organic sugar, but it's still sugar. And these things will create insulin resistance, which makes it very difficult for your glands to produce healthy hormones. So what we want to do is support that whole glandular system. And when we're talking about the arena of childbirth and creating healthy babies, we need to understand that none of our glands or organs or tissues work in a vacuum. They all are interrelated, which is what we're finding out more and more as we look at things like quantum physics. Everything is related. We're related to everything on this planet, but even more so when it comes to our own bodies. And one of the primary things that we need to consider when we're looking at the area of fertility is the health of our adrenal glands. Our adrenals are our backup system, particularly, for all of us, for both men and women. But for women, we really see this when we're looking at what happens at menopause, because we no longer have eggs that are available to be provided to our ovaries for the whole process of creating menses. And so women lose their menses, and they basically don't have the eggs for producing the larger amounts of estrogen and progesterone because the cycle's no longer happening. But our adrenal glands can support us for many, many years after our periods are gone. And for men, the adrenal glands can support you when your testosterone is getting lesser and lesser and lesser. Of course, there's always the option of seeing a good endocrinologist or an alternative doctor who's been trained in working with bioidentical hormones and starting to replace some of these hormones. But what we really want to do is look at, or what I'm inviting you to consider doing, is to look at what we can do to make what we already have stronger and healthier without having to do replacements with things from outside. So if we can support our adrenal glands in being healthier, if we can support our pituitary and hypothalamus to be strong and healthy, which are in very strong relationship to our adrenals and to our hormones, our sexual hormones, be it estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone. They're all very integrated and all help each other out and support each other. And so what we want to do is look at what we can do to support all of these. And I'm going to start with one of the most fundamental things there is, and that is reduce our stress. Find ways to be happy. Find ways to be at peace with yourself and your life. To find community. and friends and people that we can be with. There's so many studies that indicate that when a person has a partner, that they can live as much as 8 years longer with partners than by themselves. When people have a strong community and people to do things with, and volunteering and doing things that make you feel like you're a part of the world and making a difference, it makes a difference in the quality of our life, the quality of our hormones, the quality of our ability to bring about true happiness and that which is an environment for healthy new life and to be born. Be it the new life of a new baby or a new project or something that you're doing to make a big contribution for yourself and for the world. These things are so important, and our hormones have to do with our creative aspects of who we are. And so being truly creative in our expression of life is something that will support us in developing healthy, happy babies. And not only that, but it will definitely involve and support our being happy and having wonderful relationships with others as well. So there's that piece. Also, another thing that's truly important is the whole area of considering how, in particular, women are hooked into the moon cycle and the cycle of our estrogen and our progesterone, and how it's natural at different times of our life to, or I would say different times of the month, to have an energy that's more outgoing and wanting to make things happen. That's when we have high levels of estrogen from basically the new moon to the full moon. And then we have higher progesterone from the full moon to the new moon. And that's when we tend to go more deeply inside. And when we honor this process, as I've spoken about in previous YouTubes, we can also support our hormones in being strong and healthy, because the progesterone side needs us to be more internal and quiet and looking more deeply into what's going on for us, whereas the estrogenic side wants to express itself and be out there and dance and make things happen and meet people and go and do things. So when we honor the emotional needs of the estrogenic side of our cycle and the progesterone side of our cycle, which is far deeper, particularly the last 7 days of that cycle, go really deep into some of our darker feelings, and it's a time to explore those and to give ourselves more quiet time, more sleep time. When we do this, we tend to support on an extremely deep level the health of our ovaries as women and testicles for men. And our men will be a lot happier if we are more balanced. So, and they also pick up on our energies when we're in close relationship. So when we are in a relationship where there's deep meaning and caring and sharing with one another, which requires both our men to be doing what they need to do to take care of themselves, and for us as women to be doing what we need to do to take care of ourselves, so that we bring two beautiful wholes together to bring about the energy for a new baby. And most of us really don't have a clue about what it takes for us to deeply honor the specific needs of the masculine and the specific needs of the feminine, so that we can bring whole, emotionally balanced, and healthy organ beings to the process of procreation. There's so much that we could say about this. There's amazing books on this subject. There's all kinds of fabulous therapists who are doing beautiful work with couples and relationships. But this area of bringing into it what we can naturally do, how we can honor the physicality of our bodies with lifestyle, is what we're addressing here. So what does that mean? It means we want to get rid of as much toxins as we possibly can from our homes. And we can't get into that full discussion right now, but I'll just give you a few quick ideas. We want to make the air in our home as clean as possible, which means checking out the health and vitality of your air conditioning system and your furnaces and your ducts. Make sure they're clean. Do what you can to get really good quality air, even if that means getting special air filters and machines that will do that for you in your bedrooms and in the rooms that you spend the most time in. There are different devices like those which will produce ultraviolet and ozone and this sort of thing that can be placed at the returns of your air conditioning system and heating system, your HVAC, that you can actually help to clean the air and do them for short periods of times or longer periods of time, depending upon how you have it set up, and clean the air where you are, because we live in Austin in particular, if that's where you happen to be. We have quite a bit of humidity here, and there are many places in the United States that have even more humidity, and this humidity breeds mold, which can truly be a problem for people's health. So we need to breathe fresh air. We can't even live for minutes without air, so it becomes the most important element of the 5 elements for us to take in. In the Hindu world, there's a name for the quality of air, and it has to do with movement, the movement through our bodies of things. And so we want our vayu to be strong and healthy so that we're not stagnant. And we need our air to be moving in a healthy way so that it's not stagnant. And we need its source to be clean and not going through all kinds of chemicals and filth in our filters that are dirty. So we need to clean our filters in our heating and air conditioning systems often and do that sort of thing. We have filters in our own bodies. We want to keep those filters clean by doing our best not to put things into our body that mess those filters up. So there's air. And then water. It's so important that we have clean water. And many of you have probably heard of RO systems, distillers. I even use a vortexer. And I've recently had the most amazing experience. I do have this little wonderful vortexer. It makes a big swirl of water. And perhaps we can even take a quick image of that for you so that you can see what it looks like. But I found that when I water my plants that have been so unhappy during this incredible heat spell that we've had here, they just start putting out new green life like nobody's business. And I thought I was losing a couple of them, in particular my night blooming jasmine, and it's just going crazy right now because every day I give it about a half a cup of swirled water, the vortex water. And the leaves have become brilliant green, and it's just amazing what's going on with it. So I'm only praying that not only is that happening to the plants, but when I drink it, that's happening with me as well. I'd like to quickly remind you, I think I've shared this with you a little bit before, but what we think and what we feel and imagine has a profound effect on us. So when you lift up your water to drink it, if you take a moment and just imagine that water purifying you and cleansing you and giving you this gift of life, and then drink this water with reverence to some degree, it can make a really huge difference in the way your body receives it. And if you imagine yourself being really nourished and cleansed by that water, and see what it feels like, and just live the way that feels, it makes a huge difference. These are some of the thoughts that have been really scientifically worked on in many different universities these days, but Joe Dispenza brings it to an incredibly clear insight that when we imagine ourselves already healthy, fully functioning, and then we feel what it feels like to live that way and spend as much time as we possibly can living as best as we can as if that's already the case. Like recently I saw my cardiologist, and he's indicating that I may need to have some work done. So I'm seeing myself in a whole new light with the quality of my heart. And when I go to the gym now, I'm seeing myself and imagining myself doing all these activities with great ease, and walking and dancing and moving. I actually feel that way anyway. So doesn't take much imagination for me, but for some of us, there's certain aspects that we need to see well, like someone who may be paralyzed, imagining themselves walking and dancing and moving, and just feeling the feelings of a person who's doing that. The most important part is feeling the feelings of living as if. And so we want to feel the feelings, if our issue is infertility, of feeling fully fertile and imagining ourselves with the joy of having a newborn in our arms and in a healthy environment, and the baby's totally happy and healthy and cooing in our arms and all those wonderful things. What feelings will that bring up for you? How will you feel differently when you have what you want? And if it's not a new baby, if it's a new business, how will you feel when that new business is fully functioning beautifully and it's providing work for people and doing the service that you're attempting to create? How do we actually feel in those times? If you haven't gotten the sense, I'm really getting it now that I'm giving you an overview of just all of these things that I've gone into in great depth in other YouTubes. But sometimes we need quick reminders of the things that will make a big difference. One of the most powerful things that I've done and shared with a number of people is a program that has to do with these different phases of taking ourselves through the energy of, first of all, making sure that we're able to clear toxins effectively through our bowels, and making sure that we have 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. If we're not doing that, then our other systems of detoxification can't do their job well, like the liver and the lymphatic system and the kidney. So it's really important that we do whatever we need to do to get our bowels working well. I use some products that I really have found to be helpful, but we really need to analyze the diet as well and make sure that you're eating foods that will support you, and drinking enough water. Oh my God, that is so important to make sure that you have healthy bowel movements. You want to be drinking at least half of your ideal body weight in ounces of water. So if your ideal body weight was 180, you'd want to be drinking 90 ounces of water a day at minimum. And if you're still dealing with the heat, like we are here in Austin, you want to make sure you're getting enough salt so that you're not going to dehydrate. And one of the best ways to do that is to put some salt into everything that you drink, and just, including your water, and just put enough salt in so it tastes good to you, not salty. And or you can just lick some salt and then drink a glass of water, whatever you prefer. But we really do need that because we need to have good bowel movements and we need to have enough water in us to make sure that our tissues are strong and healthy. So please consider making sure that you have enough water in your body. And if you're really physically active, you'll need more than half your body weight in ounces. And you can probably tell, because if you're really active, you won't be able to do what you would normally love to do if you don't have enough water. So you want to feel joy and happiness while you're doing your physical activities, like riding your bikes and running and doing what you love to do. Dancing, whatever. We've talked about fire, we've talked about water. Earth has to do with our food. And we want our food to come from healthy soil, that's got a lot of life form in it, which means manure, which means plant materials that have been given back to the soil. And we want our plants to be as fresh as possible, which means that probably the best thing you could do for yourself is to have a garden, and if you're eating plants, and to enjoy fresh food right out of the garden. In Indian tradition, they talk about not eating any food more than an hour and a half after you've made it. I don't do that, but I've noticed when I've been in ashrams where they do that, they're cooking for lots of people and it's easy to just make enough food for everybody and not have leftovers. I really noticed a difference in the way I felt. Having food that was made fresh for every meal was quite an amazing experience to feel what that's like. And they had a 1,000-acre farm to boot, so all the vegetables and things were fresh. It was really quite a special experience to do that. And some of you may be able to actually do that for yourselves. And if you do, that would be such an act of love for you and for your baby-to-be and for your partners and your families. So if you're in a position to do that, that's awesome. But I'm just trying to encourage people more than anything these days to make real food at home rather than getting boxed and canned and pre-prepared foods. Because really making your own food, when you know what the ingredients are, when you've chosen organic ingredients, or you've chosen non-GMO ingredients, and you're making food with love and putting your care into it, there's nothing better. I used to have a gathering at my home where we did meditation and healing, sharing healings every Wednesday, and I would take Tuesday to go grocery shopping and Wednesday during the day to cook for everyone. And during the time that I was cooking for everyone, I was using, in what in India they call mantras or prayers, while I was cooking. And first of all, I got higher than a kite. I was really feeling fantastic and happy. And some people may find that doing prayer work while they're cooking can be the same sort of thing for you. But just having good intentions, or having happy thoughts, or putting on joyful music while you're cooking, and making sure that you're in a happy place, in a good place, and feeling like you're doing something that's a gift of care and a gift of love for the people that you're cooking for. Even if it's just yourself, which is really important, that can make a really big difference in the quality of your food and in the quality of what's being received and the energy of helping to prepare for this new one who you're creating this special environment in yourself to carry if you're a woman, and if you're a man, creating a healthy environment for the mother and baby to carry this energy and bring this new life into your life as well. So there's that. And we might want to do little things in our home that make us feel safe and make our home feel special and make our home feel like it's graced with happiness, with joy, with a spiritual energy that feels good, that feels nurturing. And whatever it is that you might want to bring into your home that will do that for you, it's great. Here's a little friend, a beautiful leaf, and these beautiful plants that we might nurture in our home, they bring us oxygen, and we breathe out carbon dioxide. The oxygen isn't good for them, so they breathe it out for us. And the carbon dioxide isn't good for us, and we breathe it out to them, and they take the carbon dioxide and turn it into oxygen, and we take the oxygen and turn it into all sorts of things, but part of it is carbon dioxide back to the plants. So one of the best air purification systems we can have is having plants in our home that will do this for us, bring us fresh, beautiful oxygen. So, and it gives us a chance to nurture something also. And then that creates that beautiful cycle of give and take, and receive and nurture. So all of that is another metaphor for the importance of this beauty of this process of creation, and creating a space, a healthy space for which creation can come forth. Let's see here. So we've talked about fire, we've talked about water, we've talked about earth. And then comes ether. The other name for ether is Akash. Another name for ether and Akash is space. And it has to do with this subtle energy that was here before we were born and will be here after we die, the eternal that holds everything together into form. And when we start to tap into that place, we kind of notice a different feeling about everything. Joe talks a lot, Joe Dispenza, about the ether. He calls it space. In almost every spiritual tradition, the term either etheric or akash, or I'm not sure what they call it in Hebrew, but this energy has been understood by the mystics, and it's where the mystical side of every religion, the ancient part. And it's essential for us. It is like the life spark, that which we can't see, but absolutely essential for life. So we can honor that this field, it's also called the field, of energy is around us. And there are pieces of equipment now that can actually photograph it. There have been for a while. It's called Crylline photography, but can actually pick up and feel the energy that's being emitted from our bodies. And for the most part, the wider the field around us, the stronger we are. And this can be developed and worked with in things like Tai Chi and Qigong. They oftentimes will have us start out by just feeling where we feel the boundaries of energy. If you just put your hands apart from each other a little ways, I can really feel a solid energy between my hands right now. And I'm going to move out a little further, and you might want to try this with me. It's really quite a lovely experience. And with your partner, you can do this where one is his or her hand and the other is yours. And you can do what we call push hands, where you just feel each other's hands and move with the energy. And it really will help you to understand that we are so much more than just these things. And the way that we nurture that so much more has so much more to do with how healthy we are than we could ever imagine. But many of you who have suffered a lot know what a difference it makes in your health when you feel happy and safe, when you feel loved and you're loving yourself. Those pieces are so important, and we've isolated so much from the time that COVID began and we were invited to stay in our homes and not visit people and things like that. And so many families were torn apart with differing ideas about the vaccine and whether they should be vaccinated or not vaccinated. And we created so much polarity. And now is a time that I really encourage us all to look at what we can do to feel our connection to ourselves and to our deeper aspects, and recognizing we're more than just these bodies, and to honor that in the people in our lives, and to see what we can do to enter into a deeper and deeper space of appreciation of life, appreciation of being here. How can we really bring our love of life into manifestation? What activity would bring you a sense of making a difference and joy? And I encourage you to do that, because we need that to truly be healthy. So there's that piece as well. As far as our biochemistry and all of that goes, there are some things that just seem really, really important. We began by talking a little bit about the importance of making sure that we're able to release effectively through our bowels. Once we have that going on, we need to also be able to increase and support the function of our liver and our lymphatic system. Very, very important for our body's ability to deal with the toxicity that's now in our world. And so in order to really help the liver, we need to, first of all, do our very best to stay away from things that are toxic. But we also want to use things that tend to pull the toxins out of the body. I've given a number of YouTubes about one of the most effective ways, which is to do coffee enemas, which stimulate the release of bile and cleansing of the bile through the liver, which is truly an amazing process. And then there are supplements that can help that when people don't want to do that work themselves. I have a very special one called Advanced Tadka, which will cause the release of bile stones, gallstones, and without having to do coffee enemas or what we call a liver gallbladder flush. But all of these kinds of processes are available on my website to talk to you about things that you can do that have been done for hundreds of years to support the liver in functioning as fully as it can. As far as foods go, we want to eat foods that are more along the bitter line of things that are really supportive to the liver. And drinking water with lemon in the morning as the first thing that you consume can also be very beneficial to moving the rest of the toxins that may have accumulated at night while you're sleeping out of the body. Which brings me to one of the most important things, which is our sleep. Sleep is so essential for us to be able to function fully and be healthy and have healthy children. Especially since the first couple of years after you give birth to your baby, you're not going to get to have a full night's sleep like you're used to having. So it's really important to do the very best that we can in providing a healthy environment to sleep in. So some of the most important things, I actually have whole YouTubes about sleep, but I'll just mention a few for you. First of all, you want to make sure that you have clean and beneficial air. It helps if the environment is cool when you're sleeping rather than hot. So this summer has been a challenge along those lines. And darkness, pitch black, if possible, is really important. You want to sleep in a comfortable position, and you want to try and get as many hours of sleep in before midnight as possible, because hours before midnight count for 2. Hours after midnight are counting for 1. So if you're able to get to bed by 10, you've gotten 4 hours for what would normally be 2 hours. It's a really, really good way to get quality sleep is to go to bed earlier. There have been really interesting studies that have shown that just a pinprick of light will make a huge difference in the quality of one's sleep. Just taking a laser and just to send a little tiny bit of light to a completely dark room on a person's body, and that completely changed the quality of their sleep. So we want to get rid of all of the tiny little green, red, blue lights that are on devices. If possible, the term is sleep like a monk. Sleep in a room that doesn't have any devices. If possible, turn off the electricity. In places like Germany and Switzerland, where they've understood this for a long time, they have these little clickers, and they just click it when they go to bed, and the electricity in the bedroom goes off completely, so that there's no electricity running through the walls and potentially into their bodies for that purpose. That means you don't want your cell phone in your bedroom. And if you're wearing some kind of a device that has EMFs in it, a watch with EMFs of some sort, you'll want to take that off when you're sleeping as well. So those sort of things can make a huge difference. And the other one for me, which is absolutely essential, is before you go to bed, pull the plug on your Wi-Fi. So many people have told me that they're now sleeping because they are pulling the plug on their Wi-Fi before they go to bed. I've also done a YouTube about a very fabulous type of a blanket that was based on the work of Rudolf Steiner, and a group of people took that work and made this special fiber that will keep out the EMFs, but not the harmful energies like the energy of the moon and the sun and the planets and all those sorts of things that have a profound effect on us, but very subtle. So these things are understood by physicists and people who are studying these kinds of subtle energies, and have been understood by the mystics through antiquity. But what we want to do is to explore more deeply if you're not getting a good night's sleep and waking up feeling refreshed and wonderful and have energy during the day, what we can do specifically for you that will support your quality of sleep. There are also herbs that can be very beneficial around sleep. Kava and St. John's wort and chamomile, and well, there are many herbs. And many of them also can, you need to look at what they react with, because there may be things that you're doing that wouldn't work to take them along with. I believe SSRIs You need to be very careful taking St. John's wort with that. You might not be able to do St. John's wort with that particular, if you're taking an SSRI. But please check any herbs that you might be taking against any meds that should not be taken at the same time if you're taking medications. Okay, let's see here. So we've talked about sleep, and we've talked about the 5 elements. And we've talked a little bit about endocrine disruptors that are just rampant in our homes. One thing that most people don't consider is that their self-care products may be filled with endocrine disruptors. So it's important to take a look at your shampoo and your skincare products and your makeup if you're women or men who want to wear makeup. It's really important to see that these things also do not include endocrine disruptors. And again, I bring you back to the resource of the Environmental Working Group. You can go onto their website and check out any product, and it will tell you their toxicities, what they are, and how much they are, and give you that information so you can make an educated selection. And they also, you could look up, the least harmful lipsticks or eyeliners or whatever it is that you're interested in, the least toxic skin freshener after you've shaved, or whatever it is that you're looking for. And many of these things we can make from things that are in our kitchens, and we can make them ourselves. And the Environmental Working Group can make suggestions about that, but we can also look at our do-it-yourself stuff that are available online. Just Google and see what you can find. There's so many wonderful, wonderful things we can do in our own kitchens. Like I do a lot with castor oil. I do a lot with vinegar. Different oils that are like amla oil and things like that. So we can find these different products. Coconut oil is wonderful, and even just using egg yolks is a fabulous shampoo for your eggs, for your hair. So I mean, there's just so many things we can do if we look back into what our greats used to use. I think we'll find that there are wonderful products that will keep us healthy and young and not add more toxicity and endocrine disruptors to our bigger picture. So I think I'm going to wrap it here because I've given you so much information already. And I'd like to thank you so much for being with me and let you know that I do love providing individualized programs for people as to what we can do to support you. And I didn't bring up homeopathics, but homeopathic medicines have been known for, gosh, a couple hundred years now to be incredibly beneficial and effective when people are dealing with infertility issues. Rarely have I found a situation that doesn't respond beautifully to homeopathic remedies, and people who thought that they couldn't have children were able to have children with homeopathic remedies. So I encourage you to look deeply into these areas. I would love to help you, and I'm sure there are wonderful people in your location who can also help you along these lines. So please feel free to call. Our information is on the YouTube, and I hope to hear from you. Have a beautiful day.